In this video, we will discuss how to document sources in APA style. Let us begin with in-text parenthetical citations. In-text citations involve referencing the original text in parentheses within the text of your work. Add an in-text citation whenever you quote, paraphrase, summarize, or use data from a source. Another way to look at this is that whenever the work is not your original creation, credit the source. So what goes into a parenthetical citation? In APA format, a parenthetical citation includes the author's last name, year of publication, and a page number from which the cited material was taken. If you add your author's name in the text of your paper in the form of an attribution tag or signal phrase, you do not have to restate the author's last name in the parenthetical citation, just provide the year of publication and page number. As shown in this example, provide author's last name, comma, year of publication, comma, the letter P followed by a period, and then the page number, all within closed parentheses, followed by a period. If you want to list multiple page numbers, add the abbreviation PP dot and then provide the page numbers. Remember, all punctuation and where they are placed is important in APA. Titles of books and reports are italicized. Titles of articles, chapters, and web pages are placed in quotation marks. When creating a parenthetical citation, if you come across a source that does not provide the author's name, do not say anonymous unless the source lists the author as anonymous. Instead, you will cite by providing the first few words of the source's title. Place the shortened title in quotation marks, followed by a comma and the date. Notice that the comma is placed inside the quotation marks, not outside. If your source has two authors, provide the last name of both authors. APA allows the use of the and symbol instead of spelling it out. If your source has three or more authors, list only the first author's name followed by ETAL dot. If you have a source without page numbers, cite it by providing the paragraph number preceded by PARA dot and the number. Now that we have a better understanding of how to create in-text citations, let us look at documenting these sources in the reference list. A reference list provides the information necessary for a reader to locate and retrieve any source you cite in the body of the paper. Each source you cite in the paper must appear in the reference list. Likewise, each entry in the reference list must be cited in your text. Do not add sources to your list just because you glanced over them. Cite them only if you actually use them in your paper. If your source is a book, the information that will go into the reference list will include author's last name, comma, initials of the author's name, followed by a period, year of publication in parentheses, and then the title of the book. Italicize the title of the book. Next, provide the publisher's name and a DOI if available. Remember, punctuation is a big deal with documentation. Make sure you place the right punctuation in the right place. When your source is an anthology, you will provide author's last name, comma, first and middle initials, period, publication date in parentheses, year only, period, title of the article or chapter. Do not add quotation marks because that is done only when it's an in-text citation, not in the reference list. Followed by a period. Add the first and middle initials of the editor's name, period. Add last name, and within parentheses add ed, period, followed by a comma after the parentheses. Next, add the title of the book or anthology. Italicize the title. Add page numbers preceded by P dot or PP dot if you have multiple pages. Lastly, provide the publisher's name and a DOI if available. It is important to understand the use of quotation marks when listing the titles of the shorter pieces like articles and chapters from a book. When you add these titles to the in-text citations, you will place them in quotation marks. But when the same title will be added to the reference list, it will not be placed in quotation marks. No special markings will be added, so make changes accordingly. The titles of larger works, books, journals, and reports are italicized, both in the in-text citations as well as in the reference list. For a web page or piece of online content, provide author's last name, comma, initials, followed by a period, year, comma, month, and day of publication within parentheses, followed by a period, title of the page italicized, followed by a period, and the name of the site, followed by a period, and then the URL. For articles accessed through a database, provide the author's last name, comma, first and middle initials if available, followed by a period, year of publication within parentheses, followed by a period, title of the article, followed by a period. Notice that here the title of the article is not placed in quotation marks. Next, add the title of the journal, which is italicized, followed by a comma. Provide the volume and issue number, followed by a comma, then the pages, followed by a period, and provide the DOI or URL if available. Before concluding this lesson, let us recap the basic APA rules of formatting a reference list. The reference list should appear at the end of your paper. It provides the information necessary for a reader to locate and retrieve any source you cite in the body of your paper. Each source you cite in the paper must appear in your reference list. Likewise, each entry in the reference list must be cited in your text. Your references should begin on a new page separate from the text of the essay. Label this page References, centered at the top of the page, boldface the title. All text should be double-spaced, just like the rest of the essay. All lines after the first line of each entry in your reference list should be indented 1/2 inch from the left margin. This is called hanging indentation. Reference list entries should be alphabetized by the last name of the first author of each work. For multiple articles by the same author or authors listed in the same order, list the entries in chronological order from earliest to most recent. Italicize titles of longer works, such as books and journals. Do not italicize, underline, or put quotes around the titles of shorter works, such as articles or essays in edited collections.